This is Behind Closed Deals.
We'll be chatting with multifamily maestros,
Uncovering their strategies,
and unraveling the latest market happenings.
bringing you intel you can't buy. Welcome to Behind Closed Deals. I am Hannah Ott, and I am one of the leaders of the multifamily team at CBRE based here in Indianapolis. And today I am really excited to have a few special guests on the podcast with us. We are joined by two of the sharpest, most dynamic professionals in the debt space. We've got Cole Guerin and K.O. from CBRE Capital Markets, and excited to have them on the podcast. Well, these guys are closers, and they are just as busy as our team. So our teams have a lot of similarities. They are 13 strong, just like we are here in Indy. Last year, they closed 66 deals in a very turbulent market. They average about 100 closings a year, so they've got plenty of data points to point to. And today we're going to talk about debt, but I'm excited to talk about our partnership with Cole and K.O. and their teams. And so I'm excited for you guys to get to know them. So we'll start with some introductions. So Cole and K.O., excited to have you guys here. Thank you so much, and welcome to the podcast. And let's start with you, K.O. What does K.O. stand for? Knockout?
Yeah, well, not anymore. It stands for Kelly O'Brien Kennedy. So I'm a wee bit Irish.
I like it. How long have you been in the debt space?
I've been doing this now for about 28, 29 years. Seems like only yesterday that I got my start. So it goes by fast.
So how did you get your start? Give us a quick backstory.
Well, it purely, I tell people it's purely by the grace of God that I'm here. About 29 years ago, I had two small children, and it was in a dead-end job. And this was literally an answer to prayer. I got introduced. One of my friends was a mortgage banker locally in Nashville, and I'd been begging him for a job for years. And he said, "You have no training or experience." And I guess I just wore him down, and he agreed to teach me the business. And I don't know, it's one of those things where it just kind of all made sense to me. So it was truly a gift from God to be in this industry. And 28 years later, I'm just as excited today as I was the day I started.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is one of the things about you, Cole, that is true about you, K.O., is that you have such like an energy and an excitement about the business and about deals, which is great. And it certainly helps when, deals get tough or there are things that happen. And so love that energy about you for sure. So Cole, were you also stuck with two small children and broke?
No, two small golden retrievers, I guess, but that's no. I started out on the West Coast. I grew up in California, and I was doing the same thing there for a while. But I started back in 2016, 2017. So not as long as KO, a little bit shorter. But started in tech and sales, and realized I wanted to be in real estate. Started my chops with agency production, and moved out to Nashville, and during the start of COVID 2020. And KO took me on, and I've been running with them since then.
That's great. What drew you guys to CBRE?
Sorry?
What drew you guys to CBRE?
That's the best and the biggest. I was with a regional mortgage banking shop back in I opened the office for CBRE in mid 2006. And before that, I was with a regional mortgage banking shop, which was an awesome experience. It was very collegial. But it was time for me to take the next step. And it's been an incredible run to be with a company that has such broad reach and so many business verticals. It's a lot of fun to work for CBRE. Our access to information is second to none, and these guys have allowed us to grow a big team like your team, Hannah. And I think we've closed business in 40 different states now. So, we follow our clients wherever they go. And it's really not possible to do that if you're with a sort of a regional player. You really have to have the power of the platform. It's real. It really works.
Yeah, I started my career at CBRE, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. I lucked into it, I think, and the power of the platform is real. The tools, the technology, the enablement. I mean, our ability to interface with our other teams internally and leverage all our internal resources is huge and meaningful, and something that I know you're super familiar with too. So
Yeah, that's right. No, when we joined CBRE, it's been about a year and a half now. One of the things we wanted to do was lock arms with like-minded professionals. And so that's certainly been something that we have been able to do with you guys because we have a lot of similarities. KO, you mentioned team. So we both have 13 person strong teams. Tell us a little bit about your team and how it's structured and sort of what's your secret sauce as your team.
Well, it's we're we're like a family, like you guys are. We were on your pipeline call this morning, and we both Cole and I both commented at what a tight team you guys seem to be, and we're that same way. We're together every day. We've got 8 analysts, and the rest are production staff, and we all have a role to play. And most of our analysts have been with us. At least 8 years, and some of them have been with us probably, gosh, I think Chris Carr's been with us 15 years. We have very little turnover because, we treat each other like family and with love and respect, and we all love making money together. And I think our teams, really merge well because of not only the size, but the fact that we can both do such great volume together. I think we can be a force together. So we really are grateful to have that you guys have invited us to be your debt partner.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on the call that our teams are the best.
number one.
Number one.
I love it. Well, enough about how great we are. We could talk about that all day, but let's talk about what's going on in the debt market. So, what are some key trends that you guys are seeing both nationally and regionally?
I would say start out with there's a hell of a lot more capital in the marketplace now versus this time last year. We're seeing the banks are really active again. Life cos are very, very active again. Freddie and Fannie really never slowed, and of course they're fabulous to work with and provide a ton of liquidity for the multifamily markets. We've seen spreads come in. The 10-year Treasury is down fairly considerably over the last 2 or 3 months. I do believe that it's CBRE's official stance that the 10-year Treasury will be down around 4% toward the end of the year. And so I feel like that trends rates seem to be trending downward, and we're seeing a lot more acquisition volume as a result of that. And we had a very robust year last year. Last year was one of the second or third largest year we ever had, in spite of the choppiness of the market. And we're seeing that more. We're seeing that again this year. I mean, the 10-year has been real choppy, but our volume has increased. And so, if anything has changed, I think that it seems like everybody's more comfortable with where rates are now. And I think folks are just deciding like it's time to go. When
Yep.
whether a refi, a recap, or a sale, I think we're seeing a hell of a lot more people jump into the market now.
And I think with the increased capital flow and more demand to put out cash and more demand to put out debt, we've seen more creative structuring. We've seen tighter spread compression. We've seen and heard about more creative structures coming online with lease up product, with buy down execution, with kind of variations, small variations, but meaningful things that move the needle for owners and buyers. So.
That's right. Uh, Everyone I feel like has whatever stage of grief acceptance is. We are in that stage where we are accepting the current state of the capital markets, and people are charging forward with their initiatives. And Cole, you said this earlier about what buyers are doing, but elaborate on that a little bit more. How are buyers being creative? How are they dealing with debt in this market in order to get deals done?
Yeah, I mean, I think a part of it is making sure you're looking at all the options. There's creative execution from Lifeco on the horizon. There's creative execution from the agencies. Depending on the type of acquisition or refinance that you're looking at, understanding what's actually in play with the agencies and working with a team that can navigate their way through, because there's a lot of things on the table, the menu of options that maybe some players don't know about, some people haven't been privy to, like the pre-stab execution, and the differences between Freddie and Fannie on that front. Buy down optionality, where we can come in with a 35-year amortization on certain deals, understanding how mission is impacting our pricing. So, working with a team, obviously shameless plug, but that can help you navigate the kind of rough waters of all the different options and make sure you're looking at all the other options. That's something that we have seen a lot of, and entertaining more creative capital structures and all the above.
And Hannah, one other thing to add, I think most of our clients have opted for shorter term debt over the last couple of years, and that trend seems to be continuing. We're seeing a ton of 5-year term deals happening right now, whether it be in this bridge or the agency space or Lifeco space. In fact, some of them are opted for shorter term, the 3-1-1 structures. And I think the idea is that they feel like while rates are pretty doggone low now, they feel like that they're going to trend lower, and they don't want to get caught with a big prepayment penalty, in year 4 or 5, if rates take a real tumble and it's an opportunity for them to sell or refi. So we're I can't remember the last time we did a term longer than 7 years. Cole, I don't recall if you. Have we done one a 10-year lately?
A lot less of it. I mean, we've even looked at, some kind of core Lifeco floaters and more flexi exit, real short-term stuff, 3 years and shorter. So we've been kind of looking at all the different options on that side of the aisle. So yeah, a lot of flexible stuff, a lot of short-term stuff.
So that's a change that's happened in the last year. Buyers looking for flexibility with the hope and expectation that rates are going to come down, and they want to have the ability to exit. K.O., what else has changed in the last year? I know it's been a very dynamic market, other than buyers looking for potential to get out of the deal, refinance or sell within 5-6 years. What else has changed in the last 12 months?
Well, I think that that LP equity for ground up development starting to come back. We first saw that the activity perk up with sort of family office and private equity capital. But we are starting to see some of the bigger institutional type groups jump back in. We've had several calls here lately with folks saying, "Hey, we're back in the market and we've got $200 or $300 million to place this year." And so we had no equity placement last year in spite of having a really robust year in placing debt, and we've already placed one equity. I think it was a $31 or $32 million slug a couple of months ago, and we've got a couple more coming up. So typically we'll do 3 to 4 equity placements a year, and I feel like we're on track finally again to do that. So that's kind of been the biggest change that I could see from a capital standpoint, other than the banks jumping in.
Yeah. What is sort of meat and potatoes for your team? What's your average deal look like? And you touched on that a little bit, but what are your typical deals that you guys are financing for clients?
Well, it's kind of, there's a couple of different, so it depends. Like it's like right now we're working on 4 or 5 bridge deals that are sort of urban core-ish type deals that are either they're in various stages of lease up. We're about to launch one probably in another month or two that'll be 40% leased at that time, and the rest of them I think are pretty close to stabilization or at stabilization. But long-term interest rates are not where they thought they would be when at stabilization, and so it's a better fit for a Lifeco sort of a core floater or or a bridge product like a debt fund. So what do you think, Cole?
But yeah, I'd say bread and butter for our team is, the majority of what we do is probably stabilized multifamily perm.
Without a doubt.
Most of what we do is agency, Lifeco, fixed rate perm. Call it 60 to 100 plus deals a year on a given year. We probably do our average volume somewhere between maybe 1.5 to 2.5 billion. So our average deal size is, down the fairways, probably that 20 to 50 million space.
Yeah,
I'd say on average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think last year we averaged 25 to $30 million, and it's probably going to be a little bit higher than that this year, mainly because we're getting a lot more looks at some urban core product that we, normally we do a ton of suburban product, and those are 250 to 300 unit deals that are going to be somewhere between 70 and $100 million value deals. And some of these urban core products are going to be north of that. So I think that's going to tick our average loan size up this year versus last year.
Yeah. KO, you mentioned this, and I think you said it too, Cole, just the power of the platform at CBRE. And we're a big believer in that, but we're also a big believer in the power of partnership. And so partnership always, of course, with our clients, but in this conversation, partnership with a really strong debt team. So the stats that you guys just mentioned are so similar to our pipeline. You guys finance exactly what we are selling, and this was a natural partnership. From your perspective, why do debt and investment sales need to go hand in hand? And what is the real value for our client?
Well, it's important for the seller, I think. In this case, I mean, the volume that you guys do is similar to the volume that we do, and we've got a proven track record. My gosh, I mean, I've got almost 30 years in the business, and down from my business partner Scott Brady's got about that same amount on down. I mean, we probably have collective 150 years of of experience on our team, and we know what we're doing. I mean, when we the volume of business that we do means that we don't make very many mistakes, and we the debt sizers that we provide to our clients on the front end are very accurate and well thought out. And so I really think that it's important from a seller standpoint, and I think you could attest to this. They like the idea of us working with you guys and the transparency that goes with that. I think the buyer feels like that he's going to have a better chance of winning if he's working with with a group like us that is attached to you guys. So there's a lot of reasons for it to be a good thing for a buyer, and I can't think of any bad things that could happen as a result of that. I mean, frankly, there's only a handful of teams out there that will do the volume that we can do every year, and so I feel like that the buyers all think that they're in good hands with us.
Yeah, that's right. I think for us, the value that we have really seen is having real-time debt quotes for certainly all of our listings, creative structures when there is something that needs to be creative. And now more than ever, there are more creative structures that are out there. But having that both when we are listing a property, but also when we're doing a BOV for an owner. It's real-time underwriting. We are always running things by each other. And we're also right in there if they decide they need to refinance. Not every property needs to be sold.
Yeah.
But if there is a debt, if there's a debt occurrence that needs to be dealt with, you guys are certainly ready to do with it. So, Cole, from your perspective, what does it mean for a buyer when they're working with our teams together to have a really integrated platform? What can they expect?
Yeah, I mean, along the lines of what KO is saying, it's also that inside track. It's that we have real time access to the financials. We're in constant communication with you. We're in constant communication with your team. When there's an update, we hear about it. We're there on site. We're synced up across the board, so it can feel like a single team, even though we're there hand holding all across the way. And then from start to finish, we start out with kind of the quote sheet that you've seen, but it's very detailed. We don't really put out a PDF. We put out a full model, and we assume that the people that we're working with want to dig into the details. So we give them a very detailed approach. You have our full underwriting, you have our full tax guidance, and we give you a kitchen sink, a full menu of options. So you can see where we're making our assumptions right out of the gate, and you can help adjust where we need to adjust. And likewise, we'll usually ask for your budget. We'll factor in your budget, your year one pro forma, and try to tailor in our options. So, and then from there, we'll go back to the agencies. Once you've been selected, we'll pull a whole menu of options for you there. We'll go to market if the life cos are relevant, if the debt funds are relevant. all the above. And then, at the end of the day, you've got a team of a very large team of analysts to support the closing, and closing specialists. So it's white glove from start to finish. So,
And Hannah, I would add to that the debt sizer that Cole has mentioned, it is full of information. Probably the most important information on there is one of the tabs is all the debt guidance, and it is not, obviously they're not hard quotes because the agents, none of these lenders, including the agencies, will hard quote until they know who the buyer is. But it's tantamount to a hard quote because we're doing such volume, that it's going to be the pricing is going to be real time. The structure, we're going to know, especially if it's, how we do a mission driven test, and if it's 100% mission driven, that's going to be reflected on the sizer. So that buyer or prospect, it can look at our sizer and literally know what his debt is going to look like, if he closes with us.
Yeah. Well, we have a real-time example that I thought of as we were preparing for this podcast of what it really means, the benefit for both the buyer and the seller to work together. Because not every deal closes smoothly because there are things that are outside of our control. We were selling a deal on the west side of Indianapolis, of a 90s built, renovated, great deal. It had tons of activity. We had great pricing. Everything was going great. Due diligence was great. And they were going to assume a CBRE loan. And about 2 weeks before closing, a building burned down. Just a resident accidental kitchen fire. And luckily, nobody was hurt, but it did have significant damage to the building. So it was so awesome for our client, who also happened to be your client. And the loan assumption, going through that process with full transparency of what was going on, but also when we needed help, seller didn't want to escrow the full amount for the repairs. We figured out a structure that worked for everybody, but it did require constant communication with CBRE and for people to be able to call in and say, hey, we really need this structure. And so ultimately that deal got done. And I don't think it would never have gone as smoothly, but I don't even know if it would have closed had we not had that ability to work with one another. So, like we had mentioned, there's this earlier, we joined CB about 1.5 years ago, and we've been amazed at the difference there is in having that partnership and transparency, and it makes a big difference for our clients. So, let's ask a few fun lightning round questions.
Okay.
KO, what is the wildest thing that's ever happened to you at a closing?
Well, that's a good one. I would have to say early in my career, well, every deal is important to close, right? But this one, I needed to win really badly, and I'm sitting at the closing table, and it was like December the 22nd, and this was going to determine whether I got a bonus or not that year. This is probably 23 years ago. And the client the client is my oldest client. It is 3 wonderful brothers down in Rutherford County, Tennessee. And the oldest brother got really frustrated with our closing attorney, and he walked out of the closing, and he really got angry. He walked out, and about 5 minutes later, he comes back in and he says, "Oh, I forgot my coat." and so, but his toad happened to be sitting in the chair next to me. And so I pulled the chair out and I asked him to sit down, and I put my arm around him and I said, now, David, let's just sit here and talk about this for a while, and let's make sure this thing closes. And he had cooled down enough that we got the thing closed. So yeah, that was, and we still talk about that to this day. And obviously it's a lot funnier now than it was December the 22nd, but of whatever year that was, probably the year 2000 or whatever. So yeah,
Bringing the buyer closing if necessary.
yeah.
That's awesome. Cole, what's your prediction for the second half of this year with what's going to happen with rates?
Yeah. Well, I can give you the house view. I don't know if I can give you the crystal ball, but I know the CBRE house view right now, and what we're pretty much in agreement with, is two drops going into the end of the year, and I think later on in the year, so kind of Q3, Q4 territory. And we're hopefully continuing to see some of the spread compression, more lenders, more capital coming back into the market, more competition in the market, which I think is meaningful and driving spreads alongside treasuries further down. So that's good news for all of us, hopefully.
I would agree with
Who's more competitive, Cole or KO?
that. Ooh. Well, Cole was a track athlete at UCLA, so he's probably faster than me, but I don't know.
Well, KO can stick to his syllables. I mean, he was a Taekwondo master, so I don't know. We're about neck and neck on the competition front.
So you can run really fast, and KO, you can beat him up.
I can kick somebody in the knee these days.
Yeah. He can probably catch me these days, though, too. So, I don't know.
Who's the biggest spreadsheet wizard?
Cole, without a doubt.
That's me.
Okay.
I win that one.
Yeah, you win that one. He's down.
Who's the closer?
I think we're both pretty damn good at that.
I love it. That's great. Well, it's been awesome to work with you guys. We love working with you and the value that you bring to our clients who are selling properties, and also the value you bring to the folks who are buying the deals. That's just been awesome. So when you guys look at our deals, you'll find their debt quote, and it's in Excel. People love that. On 100% of our listings, you'll find them. And then Cole and KO are in Indianapolis about 2 weeks out of the month.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah, they're semi-permanent residents here now in Indianapolis. So they're here in town meeting with clients, and they're here almost every week. And so you can get a hold of them by doing an in-person meeting with them. We'll have their contact information here. You can get their information off of the debt quotes that are in all of our deal rooms. And so anything, Cole or KO, any final thoughts that you want to share about debt strategies coming up?
I would say that we're here this week. So if anybody wants to meet and talk about debt, we're available.
Balls will be here next week.
There we go to that. Well, thank you again for joining. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And remember that what George always says, you're only as good as your next deal.
Amen.
Thanks for Hannah Ott.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay in the loop by hitting that subscribe button. And check the show notes for additional resources.